Okay, so now I'm going to paint. These are dry now. It seemed to have thinned out a little bit, but it's okay. I'll sit down and I'm going to mix a bit of blue and green together, because I want a sort of a deeper green. Just a little bit. While I was waiting for this to dry, I went out and got myself a coffee and realised the time is 6:30. It's a lot later than I thought it was. So I've lost a bit of track of time. Alright, so a bit of blue into the green. See how I go. I didn't check whether I've got the camera zoomed in or out enough. I might bring it in a little bit, I think. Where's the control? Ooh, that's a little bit more. Alright. See how dark that is, yeah. I'm just going to pounce this on. Canvas is quite bouncy, even though I put those, you know, those little wood pieces you put in to tighten it up. I jam those in pretty tightly. But they don't seem to have made the canvas very tight. So, what was I talking about before? Yeah, the garden and the cleaning. I can't wait till that's over. So annoying. But it feels good once you've completed it, I suppose, to know that it's done and the house is clean. In the flower garden at the moment, things have really come on, especially since we've had a bit of sun today. And I noticed this morning I've got rose buds that are about to open. A couple have already opened. I've got lots of daisies and forget-me-nots, thanks to my friend Teresa who gave me them. And I've got the chrysanthemums are growing quite well, which they do. They just grow their greenery and they don't flower until autumn. But I did notice, I think they're a bit confused by the weather because it's been so cold for this time of year. They've actually got a few flower buds on them at the moment, which they shouldn't really have. But they probably won't last very long before they die off once it gets warm. I just saw the news and they said that the next couple of days are going to be nice, going to be warmer, because we've had unusually cold weather. It's normally a lot warmer by this time of year. We're in our second month of spring, and yeah, it's just been thinking like, well, when is spring going to come? It feels like it's still winter. It hasn't been very pleasant, but hopefully that'll pick up now. Just going to try and carefully go around the edges on this. I got some of the modelling paste that went under the plastic of that stencil I made, and it's made that really nice sort of branch pattern that it makes when you squash paint or something in between two surfaces and then pull them apart. I really like that. It's a nice effect. They call that dendritic. It looks like tree branches. With those stencils, that's the first time I've ever made one in that way. Before I've tried making some with cardboard, which don't work too bad, but I found that the acetate works a lot better. Then all I did with that is just draw on some white paper and stick the acetate over the top and then trace round it with a black marker, and then I cut it out with what we call a Stanley knife, but I think, what are they called? X-Acto knives, I think you guys call it. I'm just wondering if you can hear, our son's awake at the moment, and he recently bought himself a massager, electric massager that you would sit, it's sort of like a seat, you sit on it and it massages your whole back. It's got these little balls that go from side to side and up and down and around, and they do various areas of your back. And I think the idea is to sit it in a chair, and then you sit on it and lean back against it, and you've got a little control, and you can determine which part and how long you want it to massage you for. I actually had a go. It feels really nice, but because our son is so tall, he can't sit on a normal chair with it comfortably and have it give him any effect, so he actually sits on the floor and puts the back part of it up against the door, and he does that every day when he wakes up after sleeping, and he's got it going now at the moment, and it's making quite a noise. It's vibrating against the door, but he says it really does help his back. Poor thing, he's quite tall, with a standard size bed is too short for him, so we had to get him an extra long bed so his feet don't hang off the edge. Now I wanted to actually make some of that paler, and I forgot I was going to do that. Make it paler up the top, because that's where it would be getting some light from the sun. Switch it back on. Getting back to the garden, I'm probably going to jump all over the place as things thoughts come into my head. We've got a little small veggie garden, which can actually produce quite a lot in such a small space, but over winter it just became really neglected and totally overgrown with weeds and parsley that just went crazy. We've got parsley everywhere. So we got out there and spent quite a bit of time pulling out all the weeds and digging the garden over, putting the manure in, and then planting some seeds. So we've got cucumbers in now at the moment, and zucchini. Started some tomato seeds, but it'll be quite a while before they're ready to go in. to the ground. I've got them going in some pots. I can't remember. I've got lots of leafy green vegetables, lettuce. What else did I put in? Some herbs, coriander, dill, and some mustard cress, which is a little bit sort of spicy, peppery, but really nice. So yeah, get that going. And been wondering though, they're very slow, some of the seeds. I'll put a lot of beans in as well. I haven't had much luck with the beans. Oh, and spaghetti squash, which I really like. But because the weather's been so cold and we've had a lot of rain, I think a lot of the beans and some of the seeds just got either too wet and just rotted, or got washed away by all the water. So I might have to replant some of those in the ground. Trying to cover up, there's little bits of white around the edge of the canvas, and I'm trying to cover that up because it looks funny. A bit of water. Now this time I did actually write a list of things I was going to talk to you about. But do you think I can find the list now? I know it's in my drawer here in the desk somewhere, but I need to have a rummage through all the junk I've got in there. There's something else that needs to be cleaned and sorted. But yeah, generally speaking, I've been busy lately with a lot of friends wanting to come and visit, which is nice, but you know, that takes up most of the day by the time I sort of get up and get things ready. If we've had friends come for lunch, I've had to prepare a meal, and then you know, have them visit. Sometimes they'll stay quite a few hours, and afterwards I'm exhausted, so I have to sleep, and by that time it's late evening, and I usually just clean up and have the evening meal and go to bed. And it's sort of, you know, the whole day gone, and I haven't been able to either get out in the garden or do any crafting. So, and not that I'm complaining, I'm just explaining that you know, so I haven't been able to do much. But I do like having my friends come to visit, it's lovely. Try and get this to have a bit of an uneven colour to it. Don't know that I'm doing all that well, but we'll see. This takes a while. Yeah, with it being spring and we've had heaps of wind, really windy weather. This month normally is the windiest time of the year. But like I was saying before, with all the pollen flying around in the air, and our poor son who lives with us has hay fever, so he suffers from that. So I apologise if you hear him manically sneezing every now and then. And he can't help it. He's had some years where it's been not too bad, and other years where it's been so bad that his eyes get really sore, and then he rubs at them too much and starts you know, getting really bloodshot, and his eyelids swell up, and it's just awful. He does take the medications you can get at the chemist to help him, but it doesn't relieve it completely. So I feel sorry for him. It's not a nice thing to go through, but thankfully it's only during the, you know, the few seasons where it's warm and windy and there's lots of pollen. And there's actually a particular tree that they found here in Melbourne that is really bad for hay fever sufferers. They're called plane trees, and they have really fuzzy little seed pods on them. And I think it's due to when they split open and the little fine fuzzy seed flies out in the air, that really irritates a lot of people. I'm really fortunate that I don't. I've only had one year where I felt like I might have had a bit of hay fever with the sneezing and the sore eyes, and it just went away. I never came back, so hopefully I don't get that again. It's not very pleasant, and I feel sorry for people that do suffer with it every year. I can hear my hubby putting the bins out. It's bin night tonight. Rubbish collection in the morning. This is working alright, I think. I hope the light's still alright in here. It doesn't look too bad when I look in the viewfinder. So, what else can I tell you? Let's have a drink of coffee. Oh, it's nice. I need some more green. I went and had my eyes tested recently at the ophthalmologist, and I just have a every year general checkup, and I've been doing that since I started. I have a few visual problems with my brain condition. Not so much that I can't see properly, but I've got too much blue in there. Let's see. Might have. I have flashing lights, and I think I've explained this before. I can't remember. I'm sorry if I always repeat myself. I see flashing lights in my vision, particularly in my peripheral vision, and I have a really weird thing that happens to me mostly in the mornings when I wake up, is that and it gradually gets better during the day, and then by the next day it's back again. I don't know why it does that, but oh, excuse me. Can you see what I'm doing there? Yeah. All of the objects that are in the room with me, I can see them normally, and then I get a constant repeat flash of those objects that are in the room inside my head, if that makes any sense. So, yeah. I quite often, when it's really bad in the mornings, I have to wake up, and I get up and do things, but if I'm eating breakfast I have to sit at the table and just keep my eyes shut for a while, because it's really horrible having all sorts of things flashing into my vision all the time. or inside my head. It's weird, really weird. So anyway, that's what prompted me to originally go to see the ophthalmologist, because I thought maybe there was something wrong with my vision, particularly with the flashing lights. So he did lots of testing, and he ended up saying that he couldn't find anything wrong with my eyes, and that he believed that it was because of the bleeds that I've had in my brain over the years. He believes that it's caused by damage to the visual cortex, which is at the back of your head, at the back of your brain. And he said, unfortunately, there's nothing that can be done about that. It's just damage, and I've got to live with it. It's just one of those deficits that you get from having something like that. So I was okay with that, but he said that he wanted to continue seeing me every year to see if, you know, to just keep a general eye on my eyesight and see if anything got any worse. And over the years, everything's been fine until last year. I can't remember whether he told me or not, but last year he picked up that now I've forgotten what it's called. Anyway, the nerves that are at the back of your eye, look, I had all this worked out, how I was going to explain it to you, and now I've forgotten. I should have written it down. Basically, he thinks that I've got the signs of early onset of glaucoma, but he can't be sure, and he says he wants to run further tests. So he said he noticed that it's the nerves at the back of my eye are a funny shape. That's how he explained it. And he said that it was like that last year, and it doesn't seem to have got any worse this year, but it's still there. And he said he thinks that it might be alright, and it's just an odd thing because I'm an odd person. But he wants to be sure and hopefully rule out glaucoma. So I've got to do a test, and he said, you know, it's going to cost a fair bit, so got to be prepared for that. So he made me wait for at least a month and then come back and do it, just so that we could be prepared and not, you know, not make us go and do it straight away and have to cough up a heap of money when we weren't prepared for it, which was good of him. So anyway, I haven't had that test yet, but I'm going back, I think, at the end of this month to have that test, and hopefully it turns out okay. But my hubby has glaucoma himself, and he said it's basically they measure the pressure inside your eye, and he's been having to use eye drops for quite a long time now, and he said it's fine, you just get used to using them, and they really help. It's really kept the pressure down, and his eyesight hasn't deteriorated at all. So it's a good thing that it's well treatable. Apparently if it goes untreated you can actually go blind from it, which is a bit scary, but I'm not really worried about it at all. I think, well, you know, if it turns out that's what I've got, well then I'll continue to see the doctor, and I'm sure he'll look after me well and give me the eye drops. But I did, walking home that day when he said that to me, I thought, oh, I had sort of a passing thought of, but I've only just started beginning to do art and craft, and I don't want to lose my eyesight now when I've only just got started. But yeah, then I thought, oh, don't be silly. It's not going to happen. I think that would only happen in, you know, unfortunately in third world countries where they don't have really good medical care and the option to have those tests and that, you know, would be awful. They lose their eyesight because they are not well looked after like we are here in the Western world. We're very, very lucky. Even though it costs us a lot, we are extremely lucky in comparison. So yeah, I'm not complaining, I'm just grateful. And grateful, you know, that these tests can pick things up early and then you can deal with it and not have it be really bad, or as bad as it could potentially be. Oh, like I said before, 8 minutes goes by pretty quick. I really need to find that list of things to tell you. I can hear our pipes banging. They've been doing that a bit lately. I don't know why. They never used to. Must be getting old, I suppose. This place would be about 31 years old, which is not really that old. Not when you think that people live in houses that are well over 100 years old. Yeah, our pipes go bang, bang, bang. Our daughter's dog is doing really well. She comes over quite often and spends quite a few hours here, and she brings him to visit, and he's so cute. He's just so very cute. I love him. The poor thing, I can't remember if I've told you before, but he had a problem. He's got a skin rash that he's been treated for, and he lost a bit of his hair and it's growing back now, so the treatment's working. Poor little thing, he looked awful with patches of bare skin, and he was red and itchy. I know exactly how that feels. Poor thing. I'm really itchy again at the moment too. That rash has come back, and I saw my doctor today. I said to her it's getting to the stage again where it's really severely itchy. So she says I'll have to go back onto antihistamines for a while. And so far, even though it feels awful and I try really hard not to scratch, it hasn't got as bad as it did back in June and July, where it flared up really bad, and I'm hoping it doesn't flare up any worse than it is now. I've only got patches here and there. Particularly the worst part is on my belly, but I've got some patches on my arms and on my back and legs, and particularly behind my ears, which I don't know, it's a bit weird, but and also I can't remember if I've told you guys or not, but I've actually had brain surgery. Oh gee, quite a few years ago now. Neurosurgeon tried to go in and remove the cavernoma, which is in my brainstem, which is the one that causes the most problems that I have. And so I have a rather large scar down the back of my neck, sort of from, it goes from almost the top of the back of my head, all the way down the back of my head and down, well down into my neck. So they could open you up like that and try and get into the back of your brain and then into the brainstem. But yeah, that scar that I've got has been really itchy as well. I've got a bit of the rash on there, which I don't know if any of you guys have ever had surgery and you've got a scar. The skin feels really weird when you touch it. So I've sort of been scratching my rash and thinking, oh, that feels really weird. That was 2009 I had that surgery, and that unfortunately wasn't successful. They weren't able to get it out safely without causing me some major problems, so they went in and tinkered around in there for quite a few hours and then decided that they'd better just close me up and not try and make the situation worse. So I've still got the cavernous angioma in my brainstem and quite a few others throughout my brain, and particularly in the cerebellum, which is why I have balance problems. And my gait is funny when I walk. I don't walk normally, but it's not too bad. Yeah, and I had that surgery, to be honest, I was terrified when they said, you know, we want to try and go in and remove it and hopefully prevent me from having further bleeds. And I just thought, oh yuck, I really didn't like the idea of someone cracking my skull and filling around inside my brain, you know. It just really creeped me out. And it was quite a few weeks, even months, between my neurosurgeon bringing the subject up with me and then, you know, having to go through tests to see if I was fit enough to withstand surgery, particularly a lengthy surgery, and then actually having it done. And so all that time I just kept stewing over and over and over in my mind, you know. And it even crossed my mind that I could potentially die during the surgery, and that really scared me. And I even went to the trouble of writing letters to each of my family members just in case I didn't make it out of the surgery. I wanted a chance to say goodbye to them, which probably sounds a bit macabre, but at the time it was just something I felt I really had to do. And of course everything, I woke up, I was fine, but I've still got those letters tucked away somewhere, and I think I don't know what I'll do with them, whether I'll just throw them away or keep them, I don't know. But yeah. That's what happened. I never told my family that I wrote those letters either. That's just something that I kept to myself. But yeah, that's how I dealt with it, I guess. How I dealt with my fears and the worry about, you know, what happened if I didn't come back. And so I just spent a lot of time writing really lengthy letters to my closest friends and my family members. So yeah, that's that story. Still seeing bits of white there, but I won't fuss too much. I actually want to put a bit of white on the edges of these. I might as well keep talking about the surgery a little bit. You guys don't mind? Just, I had the best doctor in the world. I absolutely loved him. And he was one of those rare doctors who was extremely compassionate and kind and caring, and he really wanted to be able to help me, and so he felt really awful when he realised that, you know, they weren't going to be able to do it safely. So I actually woke up from the surgery, which I haven't mentioned is that I didn't do too well afterwards, because as happens with quite a few people, the anaesthetic really knocks you about a bit, which it did to me, and I didn't actually wake up fully. Oops, I've rubbed some of the paint off there. Until 4 days later. So they kept coming in and checking on me to see if I'd woken up yet. And as each day went past, they got more and more worried, but it turned out alright. I just obviously needed to sleep. But I distinctly remember, I'll never forget waking up, and I was lying on my side, and when I opened my eyes, there was my beautiful doctor on his knees on the ground, kneeling next to the bed, holding my hand. And he was so concerned, and he just kept saying, I'm so sorry, I wasn't able to get it out. And that just really touched my heart. I just thought, wow. You know, generally speaking, you never come across a doctor that's that caring and concerned. It was just beautiful. So yeah, I saw him for quite a while, quite a few years afterwards, and he kept saying to me that they were going to keep trying, and they were doing research and considering whether they could try and go into my brain in a different way than they had done before. And he even sent my files overseas to get the opinion of other doctors that he'd trained with. And I've got letters. He gave me the copies of the letters from them about what their advice was, and yeah, it was really good. But of course in the end they decided, which is the general thing now, is to just leave it, wait and see what happens, because some people stabilise, which is what I've done, thank goodness. I haven't had any more bleeds for quite a few years now, so I'm doing well, and you know, I've still got the deficits that I live with every day, but you know, you get used to it, you just learn to cope with it, and it's sure a heck of a lot better than not being here at all. So yeah, that's my story about my brain surgery. Sorry if I've already told you. That particular doctor moved on and moved away, and I couldn't see him anymore, so he referred me to the one I'm seeing now. He's actually a brain vascular specialist, which is good. It's good for me to see him, and he's also very nice, but he's not as nice as my first doctor. I really miss him, but my first doctor said to me that if I ever decided in the future to have surgery again, would I contact him because he'd like to be involved in it if I was happy for him to be. So I thought that was really nice. And I definitely would want him there. So yeah. But you know, really I'm hoping I don't have to have surgery. It's not a nice thing to go through, not brain surgery, it's pretty rough. Alright, I think I'm going to leave it like that. And let it dry and I'll get on with the next phase in a minute, but I need to clean up this paint and whatnot, so I'll switch off and come back again.